There's always a lot of questions when it comes to implementing the ALICE framework. I think we're so used to like fire drills where we know exactly what to do, grab the red bag and go. But when it comes to an active intruder, that's an unpredictable situation sometimes. And we just have to remember that there's not necessarily a step-by-step process. We're just empowered to either counter, evacuate, or barricade based off of the information we have. However, I'm here with some fellow raccoons that did have some good questions that might pop up from time to time when we think about this unfortunate type of situation. So let's hear what they got to say and talk through it a little bit.
So what are the first steps we should take in the classroom?
Good question. So if you're deciding to barricade in the classroom, we always teach with our doors locked. Our classroom doors are locked, and that's our first barricade. Sometimes we get hung up on moving things around or whatever it might be. But if we teach with our doors locked and our doors are always locked, all we have to do is shut the door. And that's your barricade. The other thing that we can do is we can remember that all the doors in our classrooms can be locked from the interior. So if your door is unlocked for whatever reason, and we shut the door to barricade, and we're recognizing the door is unlocked, your teacher can lock it from inside. They don't need to go into the hallway to lock it, shut the door, and do all that. It's important to remember, you may have your door locked, but that magnet may be there, that we pull that magnet. So check for that. So your teachers can lock the doors from the interior part of the classroom, which is a really important safety feature when we think about barricading. Then you can throw other stuff in front of the door, whatever it might be. Be aware if the door opens out, you need to make like a little pulley system and tie it to something. Shouldn't be a situation you find yourself necessarily having to do if the door is locked. You have to act quick. So if the door is locked, you've already done a lot to save your life.
What happens if your teacher isn't in the room?
If your teacher is in the room, that's why we're watching this safety seminar. You may need to be empowered to take control of the situation. It's possible that your teacher may not be in the room and you need to decide what to do and you're in charge of your life at that point in time. It's also possible that you'll have a guest teacher in your room that, while trained and familiar with our safety procedures, might not be as familiar with the campus as you that have been here every single day for 4 years or whatever it might be. So again, teachers can help give you direction and tell you what to do, but at the end of the day, you might need to be empowered to take charge of the situation. Just like in life, if you're at Summerfest or you're at a Brewers game or you're at Ruck Stadium and something happens, you might not be able to wait for an adult to tell you what to do, right? You may need to just think of the situation and respond and then wait for information from somebody else, a police officer, a teacher, whatever it might be.
What do you do if you're in the bathroom or not in your classroom?
Right. And so this is why it's important that we have our hall passes and our IEDs on us, because technically you just need to take care of yourself and you need to get out. So you can't go back to your classroom if you're in the bathroom and try to get in. First of all, you shouldn't let anybody in, even if they're at the bathroom. You just need to either, again, barricade somewhere else or get out of the building as soon as possible. It's not necessarily about control and attendance at that point in time. We have procedures and we've practiced how to reunify us as a campus, as a community, if there's a mass scale evacuation or some people are evacuating and some people are barricading. But once you hear that information and maybe you're in the hallway working, or maybe you're in the bathroom, or maybe you're in the health room, or maybe you're down in my office for a meeting, at that point in time, you're not a student in Mr. Eichstadt's history class. You are yourself, and you need to think of the situation, and you need to be aware of where you are in the building and make a decision to barricade where you are, counter because they're close, or get out of the building as soon as possible. Good question.
What should we do if we're in the rec?
What should you do if you're in the rec? This is where it's important to be aware of your surroundings. So right before we filmed this video, we walked around all the different parts of the rec, and there's a lot of different areas of this building or of this room. However, it's hard to respond to exactly what to do if we're in the rec, but what I like about thinking about what if we're in the rec is the situational awareness. There are multiple doors to the rec. So we talk about barricading a classroom door. We're talking about the door to the hallway, but we're also talking about doors that might be to a workroom. Or if you think about Miss Starkey White's room, has lots of different doors leading into her classroom. We need to remember that we need to not just barricade our hallway doors and lock our doors. We need to make sure all the doors are locked to access into the room. So I'm here in the rec right now, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 8 doors that we need to think about securing if we were to barricade in here. In addition, point to the windows. Here we go. Those windows, right? Somebody could easily penetrate those windows and enter into this place. So we want to make sure that we find a place that we're out of the line of sight of those windows, and we don't just barricade locked doors and kind of sit in the middle of the wreck and just look. We either want to go into a conference room and continue to seek additional shelter. We want to get out of the line of sight of any window. So if you're in a classroom and you've got a window, just look at the window and see where the intruder might not be able to see you if you were to hide in a back corner. Same with the wreck. Get away from the big windows. Make sure you're aware of all the doors. In an ideal situation, maybe you can go out the back room doors here by the tech interns and up through Miss Finke's room. Be aware of your surroundings. These are good questions. Let's get some more.
What do you do if you're at practice or clubs after school?
So the ALICE framework is like a national research-based framework that can be applied in all aspects of life. So if you find yourself after school or at a football game or a soccer game and something happens, think ALICE. Think ALICE, think ALICE. Again, be aware of your surroundings first and foremost. Where are the exits? You should always be aware. If you've flown before, they're like, be aware of the exits and where you are on the plane. Think about that every time you go into a movie theater, a concert, look for those big red signs that say exit. If something were to happen when you're outside at a practice, the same principles apply. If you can evacuate and run and get away, share information with people, tell them what you're seeing, and that information will get relayed to law enforcement or whatever it might be. Just get yourself out of that emergency situation as quickly as possible. You might need to counter. Again, when we think about countering, we can scream, we can flash lights, we can throw things, right? We can do anything to slow down that intruder. And then if you're outside, you're probably not barricading. However, be aware of opportunities maybe to barricade if you're outside. Running into the bathrooms at Ruck Stadium is an opportunity to barricade if running off campus isn't an option. Think about where you could go in case there were some sort of opportunity for you to barricade, but chances are if you're outside at a game or something, that might be tougher to do.
If we are barricaded in a classroom, how will we know that there's an all clear?
Great question. When you barricade, and we're talking about this type of an emergency situation, we're talking about you being barricaded for a very, very long period of time. You will be in that room until you're given the all clear from law enforcement. So Officer Don and law enforcement have processes for making a dangerous situation or a crime scene safe and how to clear people from their barricades. So you would just wait and you would sit there until law enforcement came to the door, identified themselves as law enforcement, and gave you next direction and next steps. There are situations where maybe you barricaded in a room and you get further information and there may be opportunities to evacuate out of a window. Probably not likely on our campus, given the way our windows open. You may break one if you're on the first floor. But again, you made that decision to barricade for a certain reason. So consider that your primary safety measure. And then as the situation evolves, maybe you find yourself being able to get out through a window, but chances are you're going to wait for law enforcement to tell you what to do with what's next. Just like if you evacuate. If you evacuate and you run down the street and you run into someone's house or whatever it might be, or you run home or whatever, if there's an emergency situation like an armed intruder on our campus, there's a lot of law enforcement coming here and they're going to be indicating and telling you what to do. Put your hands up, run down this street, go here, go there. Just listen for those in authority to give you directions.
What should we do if we get an announcement that there is an intruder during passing period or lunch?
Good question. Same thing. If there's an intruder during passing period and lunch or whatever it might be, you got to think about where you are and make a decision. If that information comes in that the intruder is far away from you, get out of door as quickly as possible. And again, just run as far as you can away from campus, reporting information to adults as they are working through the situation. The best thing you can also do is to make sure that you understand that if there's something going on campus in an emergency situation and you're off campus, to make sure that you don't just come to campus because that's your assigned time to come. If you're at East Campus and there's something going on at main campus, we'll be communicating information over there and telling you to kind of probably hold in place and wait for additional information or to evacuate to a location, wherever it might be. This is just the ALICE framework to help you think about that immediate emergency situation. There's a lot of people in a team of administrators and staff and police officers that are thinking big picture about how to direct you once this emergency situation happens and how to make sure we're accounting for everybody once the situation has kind of been dealt with. So again, the best thing we can do is report information, think about the actions we want to take, and then watch for more information as we navigate that emergency situation.